We're going to change our units to inches, change the width to 18, change the height to 24. So it's 18 by 24. The resolution, I usually use like 300 because I want all my stuff to be extra, uh, well, not extra, but just high res and nice and clean and crisp. Um, when you have numbers like 72, it's easier for your file to become pixelated. So a safe zone that doesn't give you a huge file like 300, but a safe place to be is 150. So put your resolution at 150 and you should be okay. So we're going to create this, and this is what we'll start off with. As you can see, I'm going to hide my rulers. I always start with my rulers because I like to set up guides. So what these guides do, and I'll show you, one, to get the rulers, you press Command R, and I'm just going to click and drag from the ruler, and I'm going to create these guides. And what these guides are for, it's kind of like a reminder, and I do it for every project that I'm working on, no matter what it is. They're kind of like a reminder to let me know that when I print this, anything on the outside of these guidelines is probably not going to be printed, just because that's how printers work. Like, even with the big industrial printers, for some reason they always have the edge is just blank. Okay, so it's just kind of a reminder to keep my important stuff inside the guides and keep the things that are not important or not worried. Just keep the important stuff inside the guides. All right. So first thing I'm gonna do is next thing I'm gonna do is I'm going to find a picture of Maya Angelou. So I'm gonna change my presentation mode from just Photoshop to my entire screen, and I know I'm changing it. It should be popping up now. All right, so you should be able to see everything I see now. Is that the case? Is that the case, somebody?
Yes, we can see.
All right, sweet. All right, so I'm going to put in Maya Angelou, and I'm going to show you this trick um, within Google. So one thing that I'm going to show you two tricks actually. One thing you can do to save time is, let's say I didn't want to crop out an image. Let me put in Martin Luther King or MLK. Say if I wanted to find an image with Martin Luther King, right, and I didn't want to have to crop out the background. If I type in PNG, what's going to happen is I'll get images without a background. So PNG is basically a file that has a transparent background, that has the image there by itself, and you can just put it on top of a different background. All right, so now I'm gonna just look up Maya Angelou. I'm not gonna put in PNG because I want to show you how to get rid of the background. The other tool I wanted to show you is tools. The other trick I wanted to show you is tools. So you go in here and go to size, and you can change it to large. So what that does is now only pictures of a certain resolution are going to show up. What does that mean? That means that instead of you getting this picture and thinking that it's going to look the same as it looked when you saw it on the internet, nice, clean, and crispy. When you bring it in, you won't be surprised that it's actually pixelated and looks ashy. Okay, so I'm pretty sure you guys experienced that before, but I'm gonna find a picture of her, and I actually know where one is without the large, so I'm gonna take the large off for now. And that's not the one. Here it is. Here's the one I was looking for. All right, so I'm just gonna copy this, and be sure that you don't make the mistake of pressing copy link address or copy image address, because all that is text, and it won't work out for you. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do is outside of the poster. This is my poster. I'm going to create a new file that is not my poster, it's just the image of her. So I'm going to go to File, New. And this cool thing that Photoshop does is you'll see where it says clipboard. After you copy an image from Google, you'll have a clipboard file. And this clipboard file is the same exact size as the file that you just copied. So now I can just press Command V to paste, and voila, it's in there exactly. Now, a few things about this. Let's delete this background. So I'm in my layers panel. I can just select my background and press the trash can, and that will delete it. Now keep in mind, I'm going through a whole lot. Don't feel overwhelmed because this is a recording too. So we will have you will have a video to refer back to. So don't feel overwhelmed. You can walk through it step by step if you want to. All right, so now what we're going to do is crop some of this stuff out that we don't want. I'm going to just go ahead and do this early on. We'll crop out those edges because you see the black border it has. I don't want that, so I'm going to just crop that out. And I definitely don't want that man's contact information down here, so I'm just going to crop this out. The funny thing, or a great thing about the crop tool, is that it has this option up here. If you look at my mouse, it has this option where it says delete cropped pixels. So if I uncheck that and then I press enter, so if I decided, oh man, I do want that man's random contact information, I could click the crop tool again and then it's still there. But once I press delete and then enter, if I change my mind, I won't have the ability to get that image anymore, okay, or that part of the image anymore. Alright, so we're fine right here. Even though it still has part of the border, it doesn't matter because we're going to get rid of that. I'm going to show you a cool trick that that Photoshop has now, and it's under your magic wand tool, which looks like this. So if you select your magic wand, you can then have the option to use this button, which is the select object. So if I press select object, what's going to happen is this. It automatically finds the most apparent focus point of your image and say, okay, I assume this is who you want me to select, and it selects it. Now, of course, it's not perfect, but it is a start. So what I'm going to do now at this point is I'm going to press the letter Q. This is a quick mask. When I press the letter Q, basically everything that's pink or reddish, that stuff is not selected. Everything else is selected. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my brush tool, and when I have white, it's going to add to my selection. When I have black selected, it's going to take away from my selection, which adds pink. So if I'm adding more pink, that means that I'm getting rid of more of my selection. But if I take away some pink, that means I'm adding to my selection. So let's get the rest of her jacket in there, or blouse, or I'm not good with clothes, I don't know. Alright, so I'm gonna include the rest of this chair. And the best thing you can do in situations like this is zoom in. Anytime you have the opportunity to zoom in but you don't, you will likely make a mistake. Like even what I just did right now, like let's say I did something like that. This little piece can cause, it can be a big distraction in my design. I can look at it later and see a little piece that's just transparent because I didn't do what I was supposed to do. So just make sure that you, oops. Oh yeah, I'm going to show you a shortcut key. What I just did was press Command Z to undo. And then another shortcut is just press X, and I can switch from black to white. So basically pressing X is like pressing this little this little arrow thing over here. So instead of pressing that, I can just press X and it switches, and I can add or take away more of my selection right here. And once I have that, zoom back out. I press Command 0 to do that, and I'm done. I'm going to press Q to go back into my normal mode. Now, I have the selection that I want. So what I do next, I press Command J. Command J. And what that does is, I don't know if you notice it, but if you look down here, you'll see a layer. And if I hide my original layer, you'll see that I have an image of Maya Angelou, you know, without the background. So let's go ahead and bring that in. I'm just going to grab this and drag it over to my poster. All right. So I'm going to scale this up. And you see, I want you to notice this. I can't possibly, as a designer, leave this in the middle of my design with this big straight line going through there because it's tacky. Okay, so whatever I do, I'm going to have her at the edge. But because she's going to be much bigger in size, that's not a problem. So there we go. So she's centered, looking great so far. So now let's find that background. And I wish I already had it. Let's stack of books. I think I'm close to it. I'll use this. No, that's too small. And if you know Maya Angelou's history, you know that she wrote a good bit of poetry and books, and she was a brilliant, not only speaker, motivator, but just a beautiful spirit. She said this famous quote that when somebody tells you who you, well, when somebody shows you and tells you who they are, just believe them. I know that, you know, like sometimes you want to say that, oh, they didn't mean that, oh, they, you know, they're this and they're that. I believe in them, I trust them, but they showed you they were trash. You need to believe that they're trash. Okay? If they showed you with their actions that they can't be trusted, you need to believe them and act accordingly. And that's one of the things that she taught me, not personally, but just by her being alive. That's one of the things she taught me. I'm going to use this image instead because I can't find the image that I was looking for. So I'm just going to right click and press copy image. And now I'm going to go back to Photoshop and I'm just going to paste this image. Now this is already getting to be some advanced thinking. So I'm going to press Command T, or I'm just going to go to Edit, Transform. I meant Free Transform. So that's Command T. So, oh yeah, one thing that I forgot to mention is that if you are in an older version of Photoshop, like some of my in-person people, that older version is not going to allow you to scale this without pressing the Shift key. But if you have a newer program like my computer and some of the virtual people, then what's going to happen is if you press Shift, it will distort. But if you don't press Shift, it will scale perfectly. And what do I mean by distort? This is distorting your image. Okay, anytime you squash the images like that, that is distorted. All right, so I'm gonna use this, but it's like, Mr. Mayshak, why is it covering up Maya Angelou? Because look at the layers down here. Think about it. This is on top of that. So now all I have to do is just move this under that, and there we go. All right, so let's, now that we have this, let's make the magic happen. All right, so, all right, don't get too picky. All right, so now let's make her, or the background, black and white before, and put the filter on it. Then we'll make her black and white. So I'm going to share something with you. Let's say if I created this, if I use this adjustment layer. So if I'm in the panel and I go to adjustments, or the adjustment panel, which if you don't see it, you can go to window and then go to adjustments, which is already checked, and you'll be able to find it. Another way to get there is, or to use some of the adjustments, is go to layer, new adjustment layer, and you can go to vibrance. But that's the one we're focusing on, with the desaturation, and that is vibrance. So we're going to select that, and what it does this cool thing, where it creates a layer that focuses on, that allows you to edit it. Because back in the day, when Photoshop was much younger, when you made an edit, like changing the color, it was permanent, and you could never change it without creating a whole new file. But now that it's set up this way, you can change it, do something else, and then come back to it and change your mind and add the color back. You know, so the second thing I want to show you is, while I'm here, if you notice, the background and the foreground are both, uh, black and white. I didn't want that. So what I'm going to do is press this button. This button is going to focus in that layer to focus on solely what's directly under it and nothing else. So now it's focused in on Maya Angelou only. But I want it to just be on the book, so I'm going to move this layer down, and now it's just on the books. Then I'm going to do the filter for this, which is also in my adjustments layer. And if you see this icon right here, the little camera, it says create a new photo filter adjustment layer. So now I'm going to do that. And I think I am going to use the warm filter, and I'm going to make sure it is above vibrance, because if it's not, then it's going to turn black and white. Okay, so let's change this, or bring up the density, and there we go. I could just go straight orange all the way through like that, and yeah, there we go. So now we're almost there. So now I'm going to go ahead and give her the vibrance adjustment layer, and I'm going to bring the saturation down. Oh yeah, let's make sure I just select this, so it's just on her. And now I'm going to bring the vibrance down some too. Notice how the shadows change a little bit. It's all dependent on your preference. You can play around with that a lot more if you wanted to. All right, so next we're going to do the outline that I did before. Outline is probably the easiest thing that you can do. When you double click your layer, you'll get a whole group of options that you can choose from. And I'm going to show you the first thing. There's two double clicks. So if you double click this way, all it's going to do is change your the name of your layer. So yeah, so if you're touching the text, it's going to change the name of the layer. But if you double click over here in the empty space, this will pop up. When this pops up, you can select stroke, and if I hope y'all noticed that. Let me go back and do that again. Let me show you something. If I check stroke, notice that this stuff is still here. This is not my stroke panel. This does not give me any controls over the stroke. So these are blending options, but my stroke needs to be selected as well. Then you'll see it change over here. And these are my stroke options. Notice because it says stroke right here at the top. So I can change the stroke size. I'm going to decrease it some. And I can change the opacity, which is the transparency. I can change whether it goes from the inside or the outside. So if I want it to grow from the inside, it would do that. But I want it to grow from the outside. So it would do this. I can even change the blend mode. So let's say if I put it on overlay, they have a real cool effect. You can do a bunch of stuff with this. But anyway, let's go back to normal, and we're going to keep it as basic as possible. No need to get too fancy. All right, so we press OK. And now the only thing left to do is add the text. So let's go ahead and do that. So the text is going to be pretty easy. And just select the text tool. I'm going to type in her name. And press Command T so I can scale it. And for some reason, it is, oh, I see. In my layer, like I can't see it because in my layers panel, it's under vibrance and it should be above that. Okay, let's just delete that text and let's start that over. So I'm just going to grab my text tool again. There we go, now I can see it. Maya and Jerry. And I'll press Command T so I can scale. And now I'm going to do the same thing that I did before, and I'm going to double click this layer to get my layer style options. And I'm going to add a stroke. So for this time, my stroke is going to be much larger. And yeah, I'll press OK. And the very last thing that I'm going to do to this is press Command T and rotate this slightly. Why am I rotating it? Just to add a little bit of flavor. And if you notice, it's going to be rotated along with her body posture. So her head is tilted a little bit. So I'm going to have the text tilted in the same direction. And it adds just a little bit of flavor like that. So a few things that you need to keep in mind when you're doing this. One, whatever image that you're going to use is going to be something that can be more vertical than horizontal. So don't get an image that is a short image or a wide image. It needs to be an image where the person sits up taller so they can take up the space necessary for it to be consistent with everybody else's photo. Also, keep in mind that this image does need to be black and white. Don't flip-flop it. And the font does matter. We're not going to get too much into that, but you just need to make sure that you choose a decent font, a readable font. Yeah. So if I wanted to get more detailed or more into it, which I encourage you guys to do, I would change the font. I would do more research on her and try to find a font that embodies who she is, because that's the only, besides the image in the background, the font is another way to communicate who she is. Now, why did I use the word communicate? Because that's what graphic design is. Graphic design is visual communication, and part of image editing, we are to visually communicate as well. So this is basically it, y'all. I know that was a lot, but But yeah, that's it. That's it. So, are there any questions right now? No questions? All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and get this video uploaded, and you can actually just follow through step by step, and it kind of gives you a better idea of, or a smooth way to do it. Then we're gonna actually do some projects that breaks this down a little bit more into smaller increments. So, yeah. All right. So